channel. This is Grow with Ariana, and this is my Bible series. Today we are still in Mark. We're in Mark chapter 13. My last video was a little long. I didn't realize how long it was, and then I go off on talking on tangents. And it was more like a podcast length versus like an episode length. So I'm going to keep this one shorter. So I'm not going to say how many chapters we're going to get through. We're just going to start on chapter 13 and see how far we get. So without further ado, we are Mark chapter 13. Jesus speaks about the future. As Jesus was leaving the temple that day, one of his disciples said, "Teacher, look at these magnificent buildings. Look at the impressive stones in the walls." Jesus replied, "Yes, look at these great buildings, but they will completely be demolished. Not one stone will be left on top of another." Later, Jesus sat on the Mount of Olives across the valley from the temple. Peter, James, John, and Andrew came to him privately and asked him, "Tell us, when will all this happen? What sign will show us that these things are about to be fulfilled?" Jesus replied, "Don't let anyone mislead you, for many will come in my name, claiming, 'I am the Messiah.' They will deceive many, and you will hear of wars and threats of wars, but don't panic. Yet these things must take place, but the end won't follow immediately. Nation will go to war against nation and kingdom against kingdom. There will be earthquakes in many parts of the world, as well as famines. But this is only the first of the But this is only the first of the birth pains, with more to come. When these things begin to happen, watch out. You will be handed over to the local councils and beaten in synagogues. You will stand trial before governors and kings because you are my followers. But this will be your opportunity to tell them about me. For the good news must first be preached to all nations. But when you are arrested and stand trial, don't worry in advance about what to say. Just say what God tells you at that time. For it is not you who will be speaking, but the Holy Spirit. A brother will betray his brother to death. A father will betray his own child, and children will rebel against their parents and cause them to be killed. Everyone will hate you because you are my followers, but the one who endures to the end will be saved. The day is coming when you will see the sacrilegious object that causes desecration standing where he should not be. Then those in Judea must flee to the hills. A person out on the deck of a roof must not go down into the house to pack. A person out in the field must not return to get a coat. How terrible it will be for a pregnant woman, for nursing mothers in those days. And pray that your flight will not be in winter. For there will be greater anguish in those days than at any time since God created the world. And it will never be so great again. In fact, unless the Lord shortens that time of calamity, not a single person will survive. But for the sake of his chosen ones, he has shortened those days. Then if anyone tells you, 'Look, here is the Messiah,' or 'There he is,' don't believe it. For false messiahs and false prophets will rise up and perform signs and wonders so as to deceive, if possible, even God's chosen ones. Form signs and wonders so as to deceive. Oh, nope. Sorry. I'm going to read that one more time. We're at Mark chapter 13:21. Then if anyone tells you, 'Look, here is the Messiah,' or 'There he is,' don't believe it. For false messiahs and false prophets will rise up and perform signs and wonders so as to deceive, even if possible, even God's chosen ones. Watch out. I have warned you about this ahead of time. At this time, after the anguish of those days, the sun will be darkened, the moon will give no light, and the stars will fall from the sky, and the powers in the heavens will be shaken. Then everyone will see the Son of Man coming on the clouds with great power and glory. and he will send out his angels to gather his chosen ones from all over the world, from the furthest ends of the earth and heaven. Now learn a lesson from the fig tree. When its branches bud and its leaves begin to sprout, you know that summer is near. In the same way, when you see all these things take place, you can know that the return is very near, right at the door. I tell you the truth, this generation will not pass from the scene before all things takes place. Heaven and earth will disappear, but my words will never disappear. However, no one knows the day or hour when these things will happen, not even the angels in heaven or the Son himself. Only the Father knows. And since you don't know when the time will come, be on guard and stay alert. The coming of the Son of Man will be illustrated by the story of a man going on a long trip. When he left home, he gave each of his slaves instructions about the work they were to do, and he told the gatekeeper to watch for his return. You too must keep watch, for you don't know when the master of the household will return, in the evening, at midnight, before dawn, or at daybreak. Don't let him find you sleeping when he arrives without warning. I say to you, when I say to everyone, watch for him. I feel like he said this to him, and that was such a loaded thing to say while they're on the hills looking about Jerusalem. He's just like giving them all this foreshadow, of which none of them actually went through this. This is, if anything, it's more of like a foreshadow for us. He's definitely speaking to generations in the future here, but it's so loaded with information, and I can't imagine. I can't imagine how, like, dumbfounded his followers must have been just to be listening to him, like, speak like that in such a, yeah, just like a very dense portrayal of things that will happen. It's just a lot. I like to think about what the disciples must have been thinking at the time, like listening to it. Mark 14. It was now 2 days before Passover and the festival of unleavened bread. The leading priests and the teachers of religious law were still looking for an opportunity to capture Jesus secretly and kill him. But not during the Passover celebration, they agreed, or the people may riot. Meanwhile, Jesus was in Bethany at the home of Simon, a man who had previously had leprosy. While he was eating, a woman came in with a beautiful alabaster jar of expensive perfume made from the essence of nard. She broke open the jar and poured the perfume over his head. Some of those at the table were indignant. Why waste such expensive perfume? They asked. It could have been sold for years' wages and the money given to the poor. So they scolded her. But Jesus replied, leave her alone. Why criticize her for doing such a good thing to me? You will always have the poor among you, and you can help them whenever you want to, but you will not always have me. She has done what she could and has anointed my body for burial ahead of time. I tell you the truth, wherever the good news is preached throughout the world, this woman's deed will be remembered and discussed. And it was. There's a little side note here, and it says it was sold for a year's wages, which in Greek is 300 denarii. And a denarius was equivalent to a laborer's full day's wage, which I just thought is a really cute thing to add in here. I love the more you get to know about like the context of things. So I just thought that was worth reading. That's why I paused there. I was like, oh, that's pretty cool. All right. Mark 14:10. Judas agrees to betray Jesus. Then Judas Iscariot, one of the 12 disciples, went to the leading priests to arrange to betray Jesus to them. They were delighted when they heard why he had come. They had promised to give him money, so he began looking for an opportunity to betray Jesus. He didn't even accept that much money. which is sad. I mean, it's sad no matter what, but he did not get 300 denarii for Jesus, that's for sure. Mark 14:12, the Last Supper. On the first day of the festival of unleavened bread, when the Passover lamb is sacrificed, Jesus' disciples asked him, "Where do you want us to go to prepare the Passover meal for you?" So Jesus sent two of them into Jerusalem with these instructions. "As you go into the city, a man carrying a pitcher of water will meet you. Follow him. At the house he enters, say to the owner, 'The teacher asks, where is the guest room where I can eat the Passover meal with my disciples?' He will take you upstairs to a large room that is already set up. That is where you should prepare our meal." So the disciples went into the city and found everything just as Jesus had said, and they prepared the Passover meal there. In the evening, Jesus arrived with the 12. As they were at the table eating, Jesus said, "I tell you the truth, one of you eating with me here will betray me." Greatly distressed, each one asked in turn, "Am I the one, Jesus?" He replied, "It is one of you 12 who is eating from this bowl with me. For the Son of Man must die, as the Scriptures declared long ago, but how terrible it will be for the one who betrays him. It would be far better for that man if he had never been born." As they were eating, Jesus took some bread and blessed it. Then he broke it in pieces and gave it to the disciples, saying, "Take it, for this is my body." And he took a cup of wine and gave thanks to God for it. He gave it to them, and they all drank from it. And he said to them, "This is my blood, which confirms the covenant between God and his people. It is poured out as a sacrifice for many. I tell you the truth, I will not drink wine again until the day I drink it new in the kingdom of heaven." It says kingdom of God, my bad. They sang a hymn and went out to the Mount of Olives. 14:27. Jesus predicts Peter's denial. On the way, Jesus told them, "All of you will desert me, for the Scriptures say, 'God will strike the shepherd, and the sheep will be scattered.' But after I am raised from the dead, I will go ahead of you in Galilee and meet you there." Peter said to him, "Even if everyone also deserts you, I never will." Jesus replied, "I tell you the truth, Peter, this very night before the rooster crows twice, you will deny 3 times that you even know me." "No," Peter declared emphatically. "Even if I have to die with you, I will never deny you." And all the others vowed the same. All right. They went to the olive grove called the Gethsemane, and Jesus said, "Sit here while I go pray." He took Peter, James, and John with him, and he became deeply troubled and distressed. He told them, "My soul is crushed with grief to the point of death. Stay here and watch with me." He went on a little farther and fell to the ground. He prayed that if it were possible, the awful hour waiting him might pass by. "Abba, Father," he cried out, "everything is possible for you. Please take this cup of suffering away from me. Yet I want your will to be done, not mine." Then he returned and found the disciples asleep. He said to Peter, "Simon, are you asleep? Couldn't you watch with me even 1 hour? Keep watch and pray, so that you will not give in to temptation. For the spirit is willing, but the body is weak." Then Jesus left them again and prayed the same prayer as before. When he returned to them again, he found them sleeping, for they couldn't keep their eyes opened, and they didn't show what to say. They didn't know what to say. When he returned to them the third time, he said, "Go ahead and sleep. Have your rest." But no, the time has come. The Son of Man is betrayed into the hands of sinners. Up, let's be going. Look, my betrayer is here. I love that this is mentioned in the Bible, that while they're in the garden, he's fighting with anxiety and grief and, very human emotions. And um, he's asking God for help. He's asking if this cup be taken from him because he's scared and because he doesn't want to do it. And still he asks and he says, but not my will. I don't want my will to triumph in yours. I want you to do what is your plan. But I'm asking for help. And I love that he's still very real and very vulnerable here, and I love that that is captured. Even in just a few sentences, I love that that's captured. That's captured for Jesus' sake. All right, let's continue. We're at Mark 14:43. Jesus is betrayed and arrested. And immediately, even as Jesus said this, Judas, one of the 12 disciples, arrived with a crowd of men armed with swords and clubs. They had been sent by the leading priests, the teacher of religious law, and the elders. The traitor Judas had given them a prearranged signal. You will know which one to arrest when I greet him with a kiss. Then you can take him away under guard. As soon as they arrived, Judas walked up to Jesus. Rabbi, he exclaimed, and gave him a kiss. Very weird. Just a side note. Then the others grabbed Jesus and arrested him. But one of the men with Jesus pulled out his sword and struck the high priest's slave, slashing off his ear. It was Peter. Mark doesn't tell you who, but it was. Jesus asked them, am I some dangerous revolutionary that you come with swords and clubs to arrest me? Why didn't you arrest me in the temple? I was there among you teaching every day. But these things are happening to fulfill what the scriptures say about me. Then all the disciples deserted him and ran away. One young man followed behind. Was clothed only in a long linen shirt. When the mob tried to grab him, he slipped out of the shirt and ran away naked. It's a very interesting detail that they left in there. Mark 14:53, Jesus before the council. They took Jesus to the high priest's home, where the leading priests, the elders, and the teachers of religious law had gathered. Meanwhile, Peter followed him at a distance and went right into the high priest's courtyard. There he sat with the guards, warming himself by the fire. Inside the leading priest, the entire high council were trying to find evidence against Jesus so they could put him to death, but they couldn't find any. Many false witnesses spoke against him, but they contradicted each other. Finally, some men stood up and gave this false testimony. We heard him say, I will destroy this temple made with human hands, and in 3 days I will build another made without human hands. But even then, they didn't get their story straight. Then the high priest stood up before the others and asked Jesus, well, aren't you going to answer these charges? What do you have to say for yourself? But Jesus was silent and made no reply. Then the high priest asked him, are you the Messiah, the Son of the Blessed One? Jesus said, I am. And you will see the Son of Man seated in the place of power at God's right hand and coming out of the clouds of heaven. Then the high priest tore his clothing to show his horror and said, why do we need other witnesses? You have heard all this blasphemy. What is your verdict? Guilty, they all cried. He deserves to die. Then some of them began to spit at him, and they blindfolded him and beat him with their fist. Prophesy to us, they jeered, and the guards slapped him as they took him away. It's so deep. The phrase I am translate to I am the Lord. Like the phrase I am is I am God. Um, the phrase I am is supposed to be like directly linked to God. So that's kind of the side note that they give here, is that when he says I am, he is confirming exactly what they asked. And he just is so quiet. He has so few words during the trial, because what would you say? Like, you know everything that's going to happen, and you know that their hearts are hardened and that words are pointless. And sometimes talking to people whose hearts are hardened and who are filled with ignorance, it's just like it's talking to a wall. It's absolutely pointless. So he's just kind of, he's being delivered to the high priest, and he's going to be delivered to other people as well, and to Pilate, and he's going to be very much submitted to what needs to happen, which is beautiful because he did it for us. Mark 14:66, Peter denies Jesus. Meanwhile, Peter was in the courtyard below. One of the servant girls who worked for the high priest came by and noticed Peter warming himself at the fire. She looked at him closely and said, "You are one of those with Jesus of Nazareth." But Peter denied it. "I don't know what you're talking about," he said, and he went out into the entryway. Just then a rooster crowed. When the servant girl saw him standing there, she began telling the others, "This man is definitely one of them." But Peter denied it again. A little later, some of the other bystanders confronted Peter and said, "You must be one of them, because you are a Galilean." Peter swore, A curse on me if I'm lying. I don't know this man you're talking about." And immediately the rooster crowed the second time. Suddenly, Jesus' words flashed through Peter's mind. "Before the rooster crows twice, you will deny 3 times that you even knew me." And he broke down and wept. That's interesting. I didn't know that in Mark he specifically labels it twice, that the rooster crows twice. I guess I always just kind of thought it was when you deny me 3 times, the rooster will crow. I didn't know that in the book of Mark it's specifically twice the rooster crows, which is really interesting. I didn't know that. All right, perfect. We're gonna stop there today, just to keep it nice and short. We only have 2 more chapters left of Mark, and then we get to start on Luke, which is awesome. Luke is also a very beautiful story with the way he uses his words, and I hope that everybody has a blessed day.